Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zane here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are finally trying out Palkia. By the way, if you want to just check out the title or the game referred to in the title, that is going to be the second game, timestamped in the description below, but as always I think all the games are pretty exciting. So I'm surprised it's taking me this long to feature Palkia because this Pokemon actually won a major online grassroots tournament before Series 10 even started. But yeah, just finally getting around to featuring Palkia. And this Pokemon is really interesting, right? It's definitely a tier below the top ones like Xerneas, Calyrex, Kyogre, and Zacian. Part of it is because it doesn't necessarily match up incredibly well into some of those top restricteds. But at the same time, it's also just deals so much damage with Facial Rend and Hydro Pump. So the main thing about Palkia is that I feel like I have like a love-hate relationship with it. I love it when it hits all of its attacks, but it just feels so bad when you miss Hydro and Spatial Rend. And unfortunately, both of those are attacks that are not 100% accurate. One of the things about most of the top restricted Pokemon is that their strongest offensive options typically are 100% accurate. Water Spout from Kyogre, Expanding Force / Astral Barrage from Calyrex, right? Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast from Xerneas, and then all of Zacian's attacks. Unfortunately, Palkia does not have that luxury, right? And so a single miss can be really bad. And the reason I caveat off with this is because I was actually practicing with this team, before recording today's episode. And I think I missed like 3 of 4 Hydro Pumps that I used into Pokemon like Incineroar and Stakataka, both, which you would just one-shot normally. And so that's something to consider, right? When you use Pokemon with more inaccurate moves, that's a trade-off that you have to be willing to accept. And so that's one of the main things with Palkia. I think the other, big offender of this in the format is Groudon with Precipice Blades. Both are so strong. It's like, oh man, if their best moves were just 100% accurate, or even if like those best moves had a slight decrease in power, but would hit 100% of the time, it would just be more consistent. Unfortunately for Palkia, it's just like there's no other really good water type attack that it can use, right? Hydro Pump is just by far its best option. So yeah, it's important to note that, especially if you're trying to ladder with this team, because laddering is all about consistency and not going on tilt often, and single Hydro Pump miss can be really frustrating because it just is so impactful when you're using a Pokemon like Palkia specifically. So just starting with that, but even with that, Palkia is still a really strong Pokemon. It just might not be the most consistent when you miss. That's just the trade-off you have to be willing to accept. So this team is a really bulky, slightly slower team. You have 2 Trick Room users in Palkia and Stakataka. You are going to want to set up Trick Room most of the time. So you can either lead Incin or Rillaboom, one of the Fake Out users plus one of the Trick Room users. That's typically your best approach. Or Indeedee plus one of the Trick Room users. The beautiful thing about the Indeedee on this team is that it is, slower. It has a minus speed nature. So as a result, you're actually often going to win the terrain war, which is really important against opposing Rillaboom. So that means if they lead Rillaboom, you lead Indeedee, you set up that Psychic Terrain, putting Rillaboom in a really awkward spot because they can't fake you out on turn 1 with Psychic Terrain being up. So Indeedee plus one of the Trick Room users is also going to be a really good lead. And more often than not, you are going to want to set up Trick Room with this team unless you're up against like a really hard Trick Room team, for example. And so like those are just really consistent lead options that lend towards you, just getting Trick Room up and then sweeping from there. The Incin, Indeedee, Rillaboom here are all pretty standard. Main thing to note is Woodhammer on Rillaboom. That's going to help out in the Kyogre matchup when they have Tsareena, and just helps out against Tsareena in general. The 2 other really interesting Pokemon on this team are Sub White Herb on Stakataka, and then of course Safety Goggles on Zapdos. So Goggles on Zapdos just helps a lot against Rage Powder users, Amoonguss and Volcarona. Zapdos already does well into them, but can also now freely switch into them. Also helps against Venusaur, even though that's not super common now. So generally just a nice user and can take advantage with Defiant and Deter / punish your opponent's Incineroars. And then finally Stakataka. Sub and White Herb is not a very common combination. You often see Chople Berry on this thing, but Chople isn't as necessary here because you have 2 Pokemon in Zapdos and Palkia that can one-shot opposing Stakatakas, so that helps out a lot. And Sub is a really cool option. You don't see it very frequently, but it's really smart on Stakataka because often this Pokemon is really bad once your first Trick Room is over, right? Assuming you get that Trick Room up. Partially because it's already probably have taken some damage and then can just easily get knocked out. The cool thing about Sub is so often your opponents will try to protect against you on the last turn of Trick Room, meaning you can just set up a substitute while they protect, and then suddenly it's going to be a lot harder for them to actually knock out Stakataka the subsequent turn. They'd have to actually basically double into it for a KO if you're healthy enough to set up a Sub. So Sub is really cool. White Herb's just really handy specifically into the Incineroar matchup because it negates that Intimidate, meaning your Rock Slide just does so much more damage into it. And, you know, if they lead Incin into your Stakataka, you negate that Intimidate immediately. They're already in an awkward spot. Rock Slide's not going to one-shot them, but it does so much damage. Basically, if they stay in and take a Rock Slide, they're going to be in KO range from another Rock Slide afterwards, most likely. And if they switch out, well, then you can potentially, you know, just get a Rock Slide on something switching in and potentially leverage your Zapdos, switch that in so that it's out before their Incin comes back in. So these are all things to consider. And of course, when you have two Trick Room users on a team, I have to mention the double Trick Room play where both Pokemon click Trick Room on the same turn, normally towards the end of Trick Room, so that you basically get a full 5 turns of Trick Room again. And that's typically something you want to do in like the last turn Trick Room or the second to last turn Trick Room. So yeah. Either way, this was built by a Japanese player. I've linked their Twitter and their team report down in the description below. And yeah, I think it's just a really fun team. Uses Palkia really well. And so fingers crossed that we don't miss our big attacks today with this Pokemon. But thanks so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like. And question of the day, I want to know what got you into Pokemon. Not VGC, just Pokemon in general. What introduced you to the franchise? For me, it was of course the TV show. And then during 3rd gen, a lot of my friends like had Game Boys and got like, it was Ruby and Sapphire and Fire Red Leaf Green, kind of that era. And so all of them were playing it, so I convinced my parents to get me it as well. So yeah, let's get started. All right, first game of the day, and it's up against Kyogre. That is definitely one of the better matchups in terms of restricteds for Palkia. So that's good. Zapdos is going to be a pretty scary issue to deal with offensively. Tsareena is also a little bit scary. What's interesting is that they don't actually have any rock resists, and because we have White Herb on stack, like Rock Slide from it is actually really valuable here. I think I generally like Palkia Indeedee. This is a very safe way to get Trick Room up. I could also go Incin plus Palkia, but I think if I go Palkia Indeedee, a turn 1 follow me into Trick Room is super safe. And then I'll probably just want my Rilla and Stakataka in the back. In the Kyogre matchup, I think like all 6 Pokemon are really strong here. If they didn't have Zapdos, I would probably think a little bit harder. Sorry, if I didn't, well, yeah. If they didn't have Zapdos, I'd think harder about bringing my Galarian Zapdos here. But we're going to need better damage against Zapdos, and for that reason, I'm also not bringing Incineroar. Incineroar plus Palkia actually works decently well as a lead here because it gets an Intimidate onto all of their main attackers that aren't Kyogre, or actually not really, like half their attackers, right? In Tsareena, Rillaboom, and Incineroar. And then what we can also do is pivot out into Indeedee turn 1. But the reality is none of Tsareena, Rillaboom, or Incineroar are that scary damage-wise here. And one of the nice things about the Indeedee is being slower than usual. So as a result, most of the time, we should win the speed war against Rillaboom because we're minus speed nature here. And very few Rillabooms are going to run like Brave, for example. So, yeah. And yep, there it is. It's going to be Rillaboom plus Incineroar. So if we win the Terrain War here turn 1, it's a super safe follow me into Trick Room. And then once Trick Room is up, we're in a very commanding position. So let's see. Perfect. So Grassy Terrain activates first. Now you can't click Fake Out. Both of these Pokemon rely so heavily on priority, so that's obviously a great start for us. We're exerting pressure. There's Intimidate. I also could just Hydro Pump turn 1, actually. That is a little bit tempting. But I feel like Stakataka is just so good here. Now, surely my opponent has Kyogre on the back, so the question is, what is your number 4? Zapdos is what I would guess. I honestly really want to just Hydro Pump here turn 1. Yeah, I'm down for Follow Me plus Hydro Pump because we don't necessarily need to get Trick Room up yet. Oh, that's really good if we hit the Hydro Pump, okay. This is the scary thing about Palkia. I played, like I was saying, I played multiple games leading up into this to practice, and like, it's just so easy to miss with Hydro Pump. So luckily for us, we do connect on this one. It's a fantastic start to the game. Let's see if they're AV or if they survive. The one-shot on Incident is so nice, and that's one of the best things about Palkia, right? Incineroar is on like the majority of teams you're going to run into in VGC. You can one-shot most of them with Hydro Pump. It's just, you have to rely on hitting it, unfortunately, which is obviously a tall task to ask for. They bring out Tornadus. I don't see how they can win. I just follow me Trick Room now. I could get greedy and expanding force here, But I'm not going to risk them getting a Hurricane Confusion onto me. So Follow Me is just so safe here. Okay, Rillaboom switches out. Yeah, if you're my opponent, the play I would go for... Oh, they didn't even bring Kyogre. That is really interesting. I actually think that's the right decision. If Kyogre were in the back, I think Palkia would actually already have this game locked up, basically. And they actually just opt for Icy Wind. Okay, works for me. This is, like, kind of how the Series 10 flowchart matchups sometimes work out. You know how we were just using, like, Giratina Origin Form? Like, sometimes we weren't even bringing our Restricted. Similar with Kyurem White, because both of those Pokemon don't match up well into Zacian. Well, Kyogre is just really bad into Palkia in general. So here, I'd rather rely on not missing my attacks. I'm down to just Spatial Rend into the Zapdos and just Expanding Force. Yeah, I'm down to Expanding Force here because it's just guaranteed damage at this point in the game. Zapdos switching out is fine. You do change the terrain. At best, my opponent has to hit a Hurricane outside of rain, right? Also, like, yeah, one thing to note is, like, Palkia's speed here, right? It's pretty slow, but we still were able to see that we could outspeed Incineroar on turn 1 of the game. And so that was really critical. I could have doubled up onto Tornadus there, but I just want to cover for the option of it protecting. And, like, right now we have such an early advantage that spreading our damage is fine. Especially because at this point in the game, my opponent really has no damage in that Stakataka that we have in the back. So they're going to go for the Hurricane. They do correctly target the Palkia. I think they're playing exactly how they can. But fortunately for us, they don't get a Confusion there, putting us in a very good position. Cool. And yeah, this is an example of a match where, like, we just don't need to get greedy because we have built up such a big early lead and we still have 3 turns of Trick Room to work with. So here I'm willing to just protect and then switch out into Stakataka. I guess it's like a little bit risky if they have high horsepower, but the thing is we built up so many resources that even if they go for, like, the amazing prediction and double up onto Stakataka and KO it, well, I just bring Entity back in and then I can just Expanding Force spam, right? You don't have great ways to heal up with your Pokemon right now. So, yep, Rillaboom goes for Protect. That's even better. And they actually Taunt. Okay, works for me. That should just secure up the game, barring a double Protect. Now we have 2 Trick Room users out, so we also have the unique, like, potential to click Trick Room with both Pokemon. Although we can't right now because they just taunted us, yeah. But I am feeling very good about just clicking Spatial Rend and Rock Sliding. So, like, you know, in Team Preview at first, it seems kind of weird to bring the Stakataka. And they just go for Grassy Glide, I guess, hoping for a crit here. Yeah, I mean, it was still possible for them to win the game. If you crit there and I miss Rock Slide on both Pokemon, you actually have a shot. Depends on the Zapdos moveset, but yeah. It makes sense why my opponent didn't bring Kyogre here. Honestly, I think if they had Kyogre, like I said, like, Kyogre often helps out Palkia because they just set up the rain for Palkia. So one of the reasons why Palkia was doing so well, like, it, you know, won that first grassroots tournament I covered way back before Series 10 really even officially started. And part of the reason for that is because so many early meta players were using Kyogre teams, right? Just classic Tornadus, Kyogre, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Urshifu, Galarian, Tsareena, Amoonguss, you know, some combination of those. Shedinja, Ditto occasionally as well. And as a result, it's like, well, Palkia actually single-handedly did so well into those team comps. And the meta still definitely has a lot of Kyogre teams, maybe a little bit less than, you know, before the format officially started. But now we can just Spatial Rend and Rock Slide again. Actually, how many turns of Trick Room are left? Oh no, we're taunted anyway. I was going to say, on the last turn of Trick Room, Stack probably almost always wants to substitute. So that's one thing that's really cool about the sub. Sub plus Whiter makes it so that it's a lot easier to get mileage out of your Stakataka even when Trick Room is about to expire. And the Whiter also just helps because it drastically decreases Incineroar's, like, power into you. So you know, negate that Intimidate, and meaning that if your opponent wants to Intimidate you, they're going to have to switch that instant out and back in. And then your Rock Slide is also going to deal more damage to them if they stay in, right? So, yeah, I mean, that was just a really good matchup. The lead worked out really well for us, and just being able to knock out Incineroar immediately meant that we could have a lot more room to kind of operate with the Rillaboom and the Stakataka in the late game. So thankfully, Palkia connects on that first Hydro Pump, but yeah, that's the scary thing. Like I said when I was previewing the team, if Spatial Rend and Hydro Pump were 100%, this Pokemon would be so good, and I would actually, like, use it considerably more, I think. But the reality is that you are going to miss your main moves a fair amount of times. Hydro Pump is just probably one of the least reliable like top moves on a restricted Pokemon. Even Press Displays and Origin Pulse are slightly higher accuracy, so you just have to, it's just scary every time you click the move. But I think in that position, we could have afforded to miss one, but even then, it's like every miss from Hydro Pump hurts so badly, because like it just deals so much damage into everything, honestly. But fortunately for us, we don't miss, so good start. And let's just look for another one. Next match of the day, and I started recording a little bit late, but my opponent was ranked like 668, somewhere around there. And they have a Lugia team, which is really cool. Lugia is actually like, one of the last remaining restricteds we have to feature. And for some of the others I haven't featured yet, like Dialga, or Reshiram, for example, I've seen a fair amount of teams built around. But Lugia is one that I've like barely run into, so I'm actually really excited to see what my opponent has here, just in terms of their set. Now Palkia should actually be a pretty good matchup into Lugia, so that's good. It's their Grimmsnarl setting up screens that really concerns me. I don't think I really have a great way around that, and I think Incineroar is a very good offensive option for us in this one because of our Dark-type damage into Lugia. I think Rillaboom is a clear drop here. Most of their Pokemon resist Grass. Zapdos is interesting, but it doesn't fare super well into Lugia. So I feel like we're going to want Palkia, Stakataka, Incin, and Indeedee. So the 4 decided, it's just how I want to lead this. Stakataka is actually pretty interesting to me here, because I want to ideally just Gyro Ball Grim turn 1. So I'm going to go Indeedee Stack with Palkia and Incin in the back. It's kind of like a similar idea to what we did in the previous game. There's not that much that threatens Stakataka for like a one-hit KO. Even if, Entei has Stomping Tantrum, we can redirect it with the Indeedee. But this is a really cool team. Yeah, so I'm just excited to see what the Lugia has to offer. I think like Palkia generally matches up well into it, but they actually lead Entei plus Lugia. I mean, that's still a really good lead for Stack, I would say, so I'm fairly happy about that. I think turn 1, we just go for the safe follow me into Trick Room. If I had Helping Hand, I'd probably consider going for like a Helping Hand here. But yeah, I'm fine just going for follow me Trick Room here. And if Indeedee survives, great. If not, so be it. I get a free switch into Palkia. It could be weakness policy Lugia. That's actually probably how I'd run Lugia. I think there's 2 different ways you would approach Lugia in this format. One is like just like make it a sweeper with policy. The other is make it really bulky and basically kind of like how we, that Giratina origin form we just featured by Dragon or Jordan, where it just sticks on the field for a long time, applies pressure, and potentially, has recovery as well. But either way, I like seeing Entei from my opponents and locked in early here. Maybe they pivot onto Incin, but this is where the White Herb and the Psychic Terrain in combination is actually very nice for us. So I'm just going to play it safe. Don't want to risk my Stakataka getting KO'd because that is such an important offensive tool for us in this game. So they're not going to switch, which is pretty interesting. That makes sense. Could see just a Sacred Fire or Crunch coming out. And I'm curious if that means it's Scarf Lugia. They just go for Aeroblast and Roar. Okay, great. Great. That's exactly... I actually haven't seen Roar Entei, and we actually get to switch into Palkia, which is very, very nice. So at first I was like, are you Scarf Lugia? But that would be... Yeah, the reason is with Roar, you basically are in the last priority bracket before Trick Room, which is, -6. So they don't really have great rock switch-ins. However, this is an opportunity where we can actually maybe substitute. Because I do want to potentially play around Policy Lugia. I don't think like Rock Slide plus Spatial Rend actually KOs. And Lugia is not scary at all if it doesn't have Policy activated. So here I'm actually willing to get a substitute up, I think. And I will... Hydro onto Entei is so obvious. But they could switch into Grimmsnarl. If you switch in Rillaboom, that's fine. Like, I'll just pivot in Incin the next turn then. Yeah, so they do go for the switch, but that's okay. I expect Rilla here. But it's Grimmsnarl. Yeah, that's another reason we don't want a Spatial Rend, right? Okay. So, Stakataka gets to come out, which is very cool. Fortunately for us, we hit both Hydro Pumps to start off today's episode. That's huge. See how much that does into Grim. Great damage. And they have Earth Power. Okay, so glad I played around the potential Lugia set. Well, that's definitely scary. So the question is whether or not I even want to switch out here. I don't really have a great switch into Earth Power. Truth be told, here I kind of want to just attack. I guess I could keep subbing as well. Like, what I could do here is sub Spatial Rend. I don't want Grimmsnarl to get both screens up. I would probably light screen here and then Earth Power in a stack. Okay, I am down to just Rock Slide plus Spatial Rend here because then the Incineroar can finish off Lugia. Yeah, they do go for light screen. So we also we have flinch chance with Rock Slide and crit chance with Palkia right now, which is pretty sweet. I don't know if this Rock Slide KOs Grim though. Okay, it doesn't, which isn't great. They are weakness policy. That's what I thought. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if it were Sucker Punch from Grimmsnarl as well. That is definitely pretty scary. So we'll go for Spatial Rend here. Let's see how much this does. That's so bulky. But we get a flinch, which is really, really lucky. 2 turns of Trick Room left for them. Oh, I really want to make the double Trick Room play. Not this turn, but next turn. Like here I want to sub and then Spatial Rend, because then you're in KO range from another Rock Slide plus Spatial Rend. So I'm down to go for that. Lugia protects, which is also fine because I get a free sub up now. And they go for Reflect, okay. Yeah, that was definitely a really lucky flinch. Like, completely changes the outcome of this game. Because if they were going for Earth Power in a stack, then stack would have just fainted. Now, granted, I would have gotten a free switch into Incin. Yeah, and Incin, I forget. We have Darkest Lariat instead of Throat Chop in this one, right? Oh, it is Throat Chop. My bad. However, now we're just in a really good spot where I Rock Slide and you just committed. I'm just thinking about the double Trick Room here. It just risks Spirit Break plus Aeroblast into Palkia. So I think I'd rather just Spatial Rend and Rock Slide here. Because it's like if we get another flinch or a crit, they're just, you know, they just probably lose the game outright. And yeah, Grimmsnarl looks like it was trying to attack there. I do think this is a really good way to run the Lugia, honestly. We get a crit, but on the wrong Pokemon. I really like, yeah, the Lugia set my opponent has. That's really cool. Okay. Get Spatial Rend. And yeah, note that this is attack boosting. Oh, Lugia hangs on with 1 HP. They go for Aeroblast onto Palkia. That's enough for... Oh, they get a crit. Okay. I can't complain about that, though. Like, we got a miss earlier on. But the thing is, because we have sub, I think I can just get another Trick Room up right now. Oh, but they have Roar. They have Roar, so I need to play around Roar. Okay, so I go into Incin then. I think if they don't get that crit, we should just have the game locked up. Lugia surviving with 1 HP is super clutch as well. Oh, but they bring out Urshifu. Okay, perfect. They're Water Urshifu. That's fine, because I think my Stakataka can close out this... Oh, not necessarily, actually. It's going to be close. I have to fake out Urshifu here. Us having Indeedee means we actually have Expanding Force spam, which is really good for this late game. So I'm going to Trick Room here and just fake out into Urshifu. Sub on stack was so good for us here. That literally looks like 1 HP, I think. I really think this is a good way to run Lugia, though. Yeah, I'd honestly love to try out their team if I could. Okay, so they don't protect Urshifu, which is also nice, and they just go for Earth Power into stack, actually. Okay. You know what? Yeah, I think that's the right decision. Now you protect Lugia. So, like, I have an attack boost. I could Gyro Ball Urshifu and, like, Flare Blitz or Throat Chop it. It's just a question of whether or not that's enough to KO. I wouldn't even think so. I could sub again, but if I'm my opponent, I'm clicking Surging Strikes here in a Stakataka, protecting Lugia. So I like Rock Slide here. It just covers for the small chance. I guess I could always switch this out. I don't like switching, though. There's just a very small chance they protect Urshifu and attack with Lugia. I need to cover for that option. Rock Slide here also gives me a flinch chance, right? And I have a burn chance from Flare Blitz here. So, yeah. once again, this is why like attacking first can give you an advantage. So Lugia does go for the obvious protect, but I'm fine because I'll just get a free switch into Indeedee, and then I can just Expanding Force away with that. And I think if we get a flinch or a burn here, that also probably wraps it up in our favor. This is really close. Yeah, this is certainly really, really close. Yeah, I don't think Gyro Ball plus Flare Blitz would have done enough there, so I think that was the right play. Oh, okay, I was going to say, they close combat. That's actually pretty interesting, because now you eat up a drop. That's actually, I don't know, if I sub there, I feel like you just instantly lose. So I'm very surprised to not see Surging Strikes in that position. I'm fine with it, because now I just get Expanding Force spam. This is going to be close though, right? Like, I don't have Trick Room anymore to set up. So if you're my opponent, you have to switch the Urshifu out right now, I think. You need to stall out Trick Room, and your win con is winning with Urshifu. And I actually think there's how many turns of Trick Room are left? Is there 2? There's still 3. Okay, that's perfect. This means I can Expanding Force and Throat Chop into Urshifu. If you protect here, well, you just feint to Expanding Force next turn. If you switch out, the Entei takes an Expanding Force. Yeah, they switch, which I think is the correct play. So now the question is how much Expanding Force plus Throat Chop does into the Entei. If it's over 50, they're not Assault Vest, obviously, because they have Roar. If it's over 50 and they don't have Citrus, that's very, very good for us. Yeah, that's definitely over 50. Okay, nice. No Berry either. I would guess it's Safety Goggles. If you're running Roar, like, you just really want to pair that with Goggles almost all the time. So I think here I'm willing to just Expanding Force and Throat Chop. Expanding Force should KO Entei. Does it actually? It's a little bit close. And I don't think Entei will have Protect here. Oh, I actually forgot about the light screen. Because your play here is to just protect Urshifu. I'm going for the target onto Urshifu. Yeah, they did just go for the obvious protect, though. I don't know. I feel like Entei is, like, very likely not going to have protect in this position, so I was thinking Expanding Force was just going to KO, but it honestly might not. The problem is if I double up into Entei and then Urshifu survives the Expanding Force. Okay, we do get the knockout. Good. Their win con, they could still win off a double protect right now, though. Actually, if they get the double, they just win, right? Yeah, I think so. Well, that's scary, but that's Pokemon. Okay. Good game. I mean, it's not over yet, right? But Surging Strikes now should just KO both of my Pokemon, and Reflect is still up, so I deal no damage into the Urshifu. This was really close. I could still, if I burn Urshifu, actually, I'd also win. I mean, I can't protect, so yeah, it's just Expanding Force Flare Blitz. There's no point going for a parting shot because they can just crit with strikes. I mean, they played this endgame really well, and like Lugia was 1 HP away from fainting, right? And if they don't get the double protect there, we should have it won. But obviously, we got a flinch onto Lugia earlier on, which also impacted the game. And we got Kurt and Palkia, so there was a lot of bad RNG for us in this one. Like, I'd rather have that. Oh my goodness, that was actually a crit. Do we get a burn, though? The burn is what I need, not the crit. Dude, what? That is... What happened in this game? Rock Slide flinch into Lugia. Lugia Aeroblast crit into Palkia. Lugia survives on 1 HP. Urshifu gets a double protect, and then instant Flare Blitz crit burn. What? The luck I got was definitely way higher than the luck. Like, I got way luckier in the end, but I mean, this is why you don't give up. They could... I wonder if a crit close combat even does it here. They actually offer Surging Strikes, but I think close combat's the better one here. Yeah, because like Surging Strikes, like it's like a quantifiable amount of damage, right? Whereas with close combat, you can at least crit. That's wild. I wonder, like, I'm not sure we needed the burn. I think we just needed the crit. Sorry, the other way around. Because if we get the burn, like, Reflect just wore off, so then Flare Blitz would do more, and I would get the other chip of burn as well. But the crit just accelerated. That was... This is the best example of both players playing towards their outs. Oh my goodness. So they were weakness policy in Lugia in the end, though, and I was curious about that. Aeroblast one-shotting Palkia was really impressive to see as well. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this team. They played really well, honestly. So it's Earth Power, Ice Beam, Aeroblast. I really like this moveset, honestly, because you have great coverage into a lot of the common Pokemon. It was Life Orb, and they actually did have Protect. Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better about how I played it then. Because I was like, oh, if it's Entei, it's going to be Safety Goggles. It was just classic Focus Sash Urshifu. AV Rillaboom. Man, we've had some crazy RNG lately. And then Light Screen on Grim. Yeah, with Sucker Punch. This is a really smart team, honestly. I'd love to try it out myself. But, oh my goodness. That was so crazy. It was also just wild because I think, like, Lugia, I expected it, honestly, to survive. Because, like, it took the Rock Slide plus Spatial Rend better earlier in the game. But then... It looked like it was literally at 1 HP, so that is definitely one of the wildest games, but that's definitely the best Lugia team I've seen in all of Series 10 so far. So kudos to my opponent. I think they've constructed a really strong team there, but wow, what a doozy. Let's just look for one more. All right, Calyrex Shadow Rider. Zapdos is so good. Like, Entei, Palkia are a given. I want to go Instant Rillaboom, but the goggles on Zapdos here actually is important because their Trick Room answer is Amoonguss. So then Zapdos offers me a switch in. And they're probably not Sash Amoonguss because you'd want Sash on the Mienshao. So then it could be Koba, Akka, or most likely Rocky Helmet, or a recovery item. I don't want to lead Instant here into Palkia. I don't want to lead Instant into Mienshao, so I think Entei plus Palkia is fine here. It's just what combo of the four in the back, right? Because, like, Rillaboom itself is pretty good into Calyrex, and I can U-turn out with this, and it's a Spore switch in. Stack is not bad here either. All of our Pokemon are solid in this one. I definitely want Instinct because it can just I have two Pokemon that can one-shot Calyrex. I feel like I should really be bringing Entei and Instinct, and then it's Zapdos or Rillaboom. I feel like Rillaboom is probably the smart answer, but Zapdos is just pretty intriguing to me here. The reason why Rillaboom's like the smart answer is just because it matches up better against Calyrex than Zapdos outside of Trick Room. And it has Assault Vest, whereas Calyrex can obviously just deal large amounts of Psychic damage to us. Now, one thing to note is that they don't have a Psychic Terrain user here. So... like, Calyrex is less likely to be running Expanding Force. You could still have it, but yeah. It's funny, because the thing is, I am setting up the Psychic Terrain for it here, right? They could just Electro Web, Astral Barrage, Electro Web, Expanding Force, Volt Switch, Expanding Force, Volt Switch, Substitute. I mean, there's so many things that can happen on turn 1, but... I honestly think we take Astral Barrage and Electro Web. So I almost want to just Trick Room and Shadow Ball. It's a little bit risky to not follow me here, though, so I might get punished for this. Alright, they Volt Switch Entei. That's actually the best thing to see here, because it either, like, there's no way... Oh, Calyrex would have Taunt. But I'd be happy to trade Taunt for a Shadow Ball here. They bring an Instant, which is fine. And then now it's like, I wish I had Zapdos out before the Instant came out, but it's okay. Let's see what they go for. Sub! Alright, perfect. Oh, this is so good, because we just break Sub for free. And I get Trick Room up. Okay. Now you know I have Shadow Ball. You would think like your move here is to protect and then Dark type attack Indeedee, or Parting Shot into Palkia. Let's see, they brought out Incin. Them going for a Parting Shot here definitely seems likely, or just a Dark type attack into this. Like I want to Hydro this, obviously. I think I'm down to Hydro Pump the Incineroar. And just Shadow Ball Calyrex here. The worst case is they protect Calyrex. They switch it out. That's fine. Rillaboom, I guess? Amoonguss. Well, this is why I wanted to bring Zapdos now. That's actually going to be really critical for us. And they just Snarl. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You know what's huge, actually? If you Snarl again this next turn, you're going to activate Defiant on the Zapdos. And Zapdos is just going to go crazy. The key thing here, though, is getting, like, my opponent's going to stall out Trick Room pretty effectively. And Palkia has gone 3 for 3 on Hydras this episode, which is amazing. Almost KOs Incineroar. Close. Okay, and they have a Berry. No surprise there. Confirms they're not AV, though, which is important, meaning they do have the potential to Parting Shot this next turn. But the play I want to make the most is just bring out Zapdos here and protect Indeedee. Because then I just get a Goggles Pokemon out, and even if you Parting Shot into Palkia, you'd activate Defiant. The key thing, like I said in this game, is that Regieleki plus Calyrex is incredible offense for them in this end game. Right? You can just spam Electro Web plus Astral Barrage. So that's the one thing we have to play around and set ourselves up for. But yeah, I'm actually really happy I brought Zapdos now, because, you know, I was debating so heavily between that and Rillaboom, but I think that Zapdos here is a perfect switch in for us to have in this spot. Oh, nice play. Good to confirm they have Pollen Puff. Okay. They Snarl, though, so you just activated Defiant. And, you know, they're probably not so scared about that because they're thinking, oh, I can just Spore your Zapdos. Although in this position, I actually would even have Follow Me with Indeedee, which is funny. They might just Spore Indeedee. How many turns of Trick Room are left? 2. I don't really care about their Incineroar. Intimidate's not really an issue, so I'd rather just KO Amoonguss here, I think. Yeah, I'll just Follow Me and Brave Bird here. I guess, like, in this position, it's possible they protect Amoonguss, and Instants so rarely carry Protect that I was guaranteed a free Brave Bird into the Instant slot. I got a Close Combat into it as well, but they might switch out into Calyrex, for example. Yeah, I'm not sure my play here was the best play this turn. We'll see. Yeah, so they hard switch. Brave Bird there would have just been a KO. But that's okay. Oh, no, it's not okay if they're protecting Amoonguss. Because they have Rage... No. Yeah, you have Rage Powder, but I have Goggles, and you're not going to expect that. Oh, they might just be Sporing here to then get the switch in back out into Incin. Oh, now you can fake out Zapdos. Ugh. Okay. And the Rocky Helmet, so we take so much recoil here. Yeah, they positioned that really nicely. Fake out Zapdos and sub is really safe. Have I Brave Bird or the Calyrex slot there? I could have protected Indeedee as well. Over Follow Me. I wanted to Follow Me to cover for what Incin was going to go for, but there's not much reason to do that, right? It's the last term of Trick Room. Fake out and sub is what they should go for. Fake out and sub. To which I can go Instant Palkia and get another Trick Room up. So I think that's what I'm going to opt for here. Because if I switch out and just leave Zapdos in, I put on no pressure the subsequent turn. How many turns of Psychic Terrain? Yeah, the way Psychic Terrain also timed out is good, because then I have a free Fake Out into their instant slot next turn. So I'm going to double switch here. It obviously feels so bad to switch out Zapdos with all these boosts, but Zapdos isn't affected by the Psychic Terrain, so Instinct can fake it out because it's not grounded right now. Obviously, if Zapdos was grounded, I would just Brave Bird into the Calyrex slot. So the idea is hoping for them to Fake Out plus sub here, and then since Terrain expires, I can just Fake Out their Instant and then Trick Room next turn to get a second Trick Room up in this game. Maybe they just Astral Barrage. That'd actually be a really good play, I think. So there's Fake Out, blocked by Terrain. Oh, wow. They just Psyshock. Oh, if I just switched my Pokemon the other way around, that would have worked, but like there's a pretty high probability, like I don't think I'd make that read. There's a higher probability Psyshock would go into the Zapdos slot. Okay, I mean here I think we've gotten them in an interesting, tricky situation where I can Throw Chop this and Hydro Pump. So it's like, if you Psyshock to KO Palkia, I'll just KO your Calyrex. Or Astral Barrage, whatever. Same thing. I think Zapdos does it for them in this endgame, though. I could have protected Palkia there. Yeah, that was a really good Psyshock. Like, and for them to target the Indeedee rather than the Zapdos slot, because if you target the Zapdos slot there, I can just Trick Room and win the game. So that's just a really nice play by them, honestly. Kudos. I don't think I can win now, because I don't have enough damage to deal with Instant. It's still maybe doable. I mean, I KO Calyrex, but the thing is now Indeedee is fully asleep. I really just, the turn Instant was in, like, letting the Spore go off into Indeedee and not capitalizing enough. Like, I didn't need to knock out Amoonguss there, especially because we had Goggles. And there's no way my opponent was going to expect Goggles in a game like this, right? I don't really see an out here. Other than crit or burn with Flare Blitz again onto... Because, like, Electro would probably just KO Zapdos, right? Or just T-Bolt. I can't even redirect attacks right now. Yeah, I just didn't expect Psyshock to come out that turn. I thought Sub was definitely coming out. And even if Psyshock were to come out, I definitely wasn't expecting to go into the Palkia slot. That's a great play by my opponent, so, yeah. Can't be mad about something like that. Just props to them, honestly. If I bring out Zapdos, get a Defiant boost. You just click Fake Out. I think the best win con to play towards here is hope to survive T-Bolt and crit/burn Flare Blitz onto Regieleki. Right? Yeah, letting Indeedee get hit by Spore was not good. That's an amazing Psyshock play. Like, Parting Shot doesn't even work because the problem is I would actually set up Psychic Terrain, meaning I can't click Fake Out. If Indeedee didn't set up Psychic Terrain, I would, yeah, Parting Shot to sack Indeedee, and then I could Fake Out Close Combat. Even then, I'm not sure I win, so I think the best bet is creating a Flare Blitz here and detecting. Actually, not detecting. It's to switch out into Indeedee in case they get greedy and Fake Out into the Incineroar slot. They play this game really well, though. Especially for what felt like was a pretty good matchup for us. It was just us not doing... Like, they used Amoonguss to stall out my Trick Room really effectively. Oh, they did go for Electro Web. Okay. Oh, that's so much damage. That was a crit, but I don't think that makes a difference. The win con is still the same. It's a crit onto a Lucky. Electro Web is risky there, though. You actually would lose the game if you miss. Yeah, that's honestly a really risky play, but I feel like they didn't need to go for that. Because if I had just stayed in and you missed there, you just actually lose the game. Alright, Lucky survives. Can crit burn once, but not twice. I'll take it, though. Really fun set of games, honestly. And Palkia was good here. I think my opponent played really smartly, and I guess... Like, the thing is, if I had actually just sacked Indeedee in that position, then Palkia comes in for free, and then I get to make the fake out Trick Room play, and we probably just win from there. I think very few players would Slash Shock there. And my opponent probably read into exactly what I was trying to accomplish there. So that's just an excellent job by them. And I have no shame losing to someone making a great play like that. What's our best bet? Yeah, hope for another Electro Web miss. Like, I'm still surprised they went for that previously. Hope for a miss, and then survive Flare Blitz. Yeah, they are going to T-Bolt this time around. I actually guess I could have protected Zapdos and hoped it was a speed tie between Incin. I'm pretty sure they're just faster than us here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just surprised they didn't T-Bolt last turn. I don't feel like... Oh, actually, with the Electro Whip, there's obviously no chance we're going to outspeed them. So, yeah, that was the way to 100% win. I think Webs is a little bit risky on their end. I guess it covers for a switch-in, but... Yeah, I could have capitalized off that, but I don't mind reading into that. Because... yeah, it's like... If, let's say they missed... Or let's say I don't, I mean, if they don't Electro Web, they should just win the game if they Thunderbolt there, even if I crit the Flare Blitz. So basically, the hope was, okay, I'm just going to make a play that covers for your best play. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's fine. But my opponent just made, that Side Shock play was incredible. Like, that's like a really tough play to make. I guess, like, it's not that tough in the sense that I didn't really have that much offensive pressure that turn. But yeah, just really well done. Here's the frustrating thing, right? Like, we had the numbers advantage, but because they have Substitute, if... you know what, though? I think the right play was to switch Zapdos out into Incin and stay in with Indeedee. I don't think they have a play that easily covers for that, other than parting shotting with Incineroar, which is a really tough play to make. Because then, that covers for everything. If you Substitute, well, yeah, you get sub up, but my Palkia is still fully safe. And the thing is, then it's just like Indeedee's kind of a dead slot, which is kind of awkward. But at least Incin puts on offensive pressure against Calyrex. I think that would have been a better kind of middle of the ground play, whereas like the play my opponent made straight up, I feel like just won them the game. And I didn't cover for that option very well. So yeah, that was an example of my opponent finding like the one specific play to counter me. But I had a better play to make that turn that I just didn't identify at the time. And especially given how that turn played out, right? If I just switch an Incin there, they would knock out Indeedee. I get the free switch into Palkia, then I just fake out Trick Room. We should win the game from there. And even if they substitute, then the situation is sub Calyrex with no damage into Incin, and their Incin, which is faster against ours, against Indeedee and Incin on my end. So it's still a little bit awkward, but the thing is that Psychic Terrain, like, expiring is also good for us because then their Side Shock damage is reduced. So a lot of factors to consider there, but... normally, like, Calyrex Shadow Rider teams don't have a really good matchup into Trick Room, but the combination of them having Amoonguss and Sub definitely changed the outcome. And yeah, nicely managed endgame for them there. So, fun set of games today. Palkia definitely put in a lot of work. We were lucky enough to hit those Hydro Pumps. That in itself was really critical. Second game was still one of the craziest games we've had on Road Track. I feel like we've just had some really banger games lately, which has been a blast. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.